It's a great day. My name is Shay Brown, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the number one business development and revenue focused late night show in the country where we're on a mission. And our mission really is to empower, our mission is to inspire, and our mission is to provide you, the entrepreneur, with all of the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. And on this episode, we have the one and only Julie Christiansen. Did I get that right?
Christiansen.
Christiansen. She's in the building, and she'll be talking about what I need to learn too: how to talk to get what you want. What's going on? How are you, Julie?
I am great and so happy to be here.
Well, I'm glad that you're here. By the way, I'm excited to have this conversation. But I'm curious, why are people today struggling to be able to talk to get what they want? I mean, I'm just curious. I mean, we do have AI, so I should be able to go to AI and say, tell me what I should say, and it tells me what I should say. By the way, I should be able to go to Instagram on any given day and say, oh, this is what I need to do, or watch a YouTube video. So in all seriousness, I know that sounds funny, but why are adults or humans still struggling to communicate?
I think we're struggling to communicate for all the reasons that you just shared. Uh, I'll tell you this story, and maybe this will help it make sense for the listeners. I got a friend of mine who is single, and she was, on the dating circuit, and she was connecting with this person that she had met online. And their texting back and forth was funny and engaging, and he was really witty. He had her in stitches all the time. But then when they decided to go for coffee, they met at the coffee shop, and he couldn't make eye contact. He couldn't start a conversation. She kept asking him questions, and he kept giving her one word answers. He knew how to communicate with his thumbs, but he didn't know how to communicate face to face. Once he actually got a girl in his face, he didn't know what to do with her. and, you know, and I think that is part of the problem, that we're so dependent on our devices and on AI and on scripts and all of these things. We've lost the ability to generate genuine communication from out of our brains and filter it through our mouths. We've lost that ability to do that.
So for the person that's saying, okay, I'm with her, Shay. I have challenges with talking. We're talking about eye to eye. She didn't say writing what you want. She says how to talk. So you got to say some words. Let's talk to two individuals first, if we can. Talk to the person who says, I'm just an introvert. I mean, I don't know what that means these days, but I'm just an introvert over here. And that's, I struggle with that. What would you say to that person? And I know it's a loaded question because, it's kind of broad. And then there's the other person that says, I'm talking too much. I don't even listen. I talk so much. I'm an outgoing person. So here's the question in all seriousness. What do you say to the person that says, I'm just an introvert and I have a hard time and I do struggle talking in person?
I would say that if you struggle with talking to people face to face, it's actually not because you're introverted. Introversion is not shyness. Two separate things. Introverts expend a lot of energy when they are communicating with other people, especially if they're doing it in a crowd and there's a lot of people around. It requires a lot of their energy. It uses up a lot of their social battery, if I can put it that way. So introverts, on a broad scale, don't have difficulty communicating necessarily if they have the skills. Uh, if they are shy, then that might be difficult, right? If you're introverted and shy, then it's going to be much more difficult. If you're extroverted, what that means is that being around a lot of people and engaging with people socially, it builds up your social battery. And so it gives you energy to be around people, whereas introverts expend so much energy and then they're done and they need to be alone. So it's a little bit different. But in terms of the actual communication, whether we talk too much or too little, that relies on things like paying attention to social cues. I mean, I tend to run at the mouth a little bit because I love to talk and I talk for a living. So sometimes I talk too much, but you've got to learn how to read the room. And so if I'm talking and I see someone's eyes start to glaze over or I see them start to fidget, or I can tell that they're getting agitated, that means that maybe I should stop now and I should listen. Likewise, if people are feeling very awkward because I'm not talking enough, or I'm only communicating in monosyllabic sentences, yes, no, huh, I don't know, but responding like that, and I can notice that people are getting uncomfortable, then either I excuse myself from that conversation or I find a way to share more than just the one word answers. But if I don't have the ability to read the room, and to read the responses, the behavioral responses of other people, I might have difficulty engaging in that conversation and doing it well.
I love it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get to who she is. I know some of you have not read her bio. Some of you have not Googled her. Others, you already Googled her. You're like, I came ready. Okay, I know who's here. I know their backstory. Okay, we'll get to that in a minute for those that are just tuning in. But you might be curious like me. I'm probably the only one, by the way, so it's not therapy for Shay Brown. But what if the person says, I got it together, okay? Until someone teased me off, okay? And then all of a sudden when I get, let's call it emotional. I'll call it that. And I'm not going to call it, I get totally angry, but a little emotional. All of a sudden, my logic is not as clear as it is. So, Shay, what's the question you have for Julie? The question I had was, what are one, two, or three? Well, yeah, number one, when we get angry, why do all of a sudden I can't get the words the way I want? They just come fire out and I can piss someone off. And number two, what's one or two things that I can do when I find myself in that state that I can hold my tongue? Maybe I don't want to say what I should say right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And those are great questions. I think to answer the first question, why is it that when we get angry, we get extremely emotional, we get into that fight or flight state, that it's hard for us to find the words? And the answer is actually neurobiological, in that oxygen gets diverted away from the brain. I actually just did a post about this today. I haven't posted on my Instagram yet, but I actually answered this question in a reel today. So oxygen gets diverted away from your brain and from your extremities, and it's rerouted to your major organs, so that if you choose to fight or to flee, your organs can hold that oxygen and give you energy so that you can do what you need to do. That is something that we cannot control. It just happens automatically. But when oxygen is diverted away from the brain and your limbic system, your amygdala, has taken over the show, your frontal lobes, which are responsible for executive function, communication, decision making, problem solving, they've gone offline. They're not in the building anymore. Your amygdala is running the show, and your amygdala is saying, you need to get satisfaction. You need to get satisfaction. You need a quick fix to this problem because we do not like this problem. We do not like how we feel. And so we end up thinking only about what we can do in the immediate moment to get an answer for this perceived problem, but we're not using all of our brains to solve that problem. And this is why, and just lead in, this is why so many anger management professionals encourage people to take a deep breath and count to 10. I always tell people you've got to do something with the breath when you take it. You can't just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's not helpful. But if you take a deep breath with the understanding that you are rerouting oxygen back to your brain so that your frontal lobes can come back online and you can make better decisions, now the counting to 10 makes sense, because I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to hold that breath for a few moments so that it gives my body time to circulate that freshly oxygenated blood through my system back to my brain, giving me clarity of thought, clarity of vision, re-engaging my problem-solving skills. I'm going to exhale slowly to release the tension and the stress that's come from that fight or flight moment. And if you can do that a couple of times, you'll find that your brain will be thinking much more clearly, and you'll be able to come up with a solution that's not just good for the moment, but also will give you a long-term positive outcome. So aside from the deep breath, the other thing then, once you get that deep breath in and you've re-engaged your frontal lobes, you've got to ask some key questions, and I'll run through them very, very quickly. What is happening? What does it mean? How do I feel? What do I want? What's my desired outcome? What can I do to get what I want? What is the best thing that can happen if I do this thing? What is the worst thing that can happen if I do this thing? And then and only then do I make a decision. And the last question we need to ask is, what is the lifetime value of this event? Because if this event has no lifetime value, but I'm mad about it, I can go for a walk and blow off the steam and I'll be fine. But if this has lifetime value, if it involves my husband, my children, my grandchildren, my job, then I have to take more time and I have to think more clearly and more carefully about what my desired outcome is and what's the best thing that can happen or the worst thing that can happen if I choose a certain course of action. And only then, once I have done all that, will I open my mouth and say something.
Said so well, by the way. Thanks so much. I actually followed that. I get it. And as you were talking, I'm like, well, this is probably a good time for folks to find out who you are. So, a question you probably get asked often, which is, who are you? What's the backstory that led you to doing what you're doing today? We all want to know.
Right. Okay. So I am an international speaker and a published author. I've published 14 books. My best-selling book, The Rise of Rage, is on the shelves right now. I don't know if y'all can see that. I'm also a registered psychotherapist in private practice. And so I work with clients who struggle with emotional regulation all day. And I've been doing this work or some semblance of it for about the last 30 years. And so what I know for sure is that people don't have anger problems. They have problems that make them angry. And I also know that every problem is a relationship problem. And all relationships thrive or fail based on the quality of their communication. And so I'm very passionate about teaching people how to communicate assertively and effectively so that they can get their needs met, so that they can set good boundaries, so that they can ask for what they want, and they can let people know when a problem exists so that they can work on solving the problem instead of just trying to make themselves feel better as a quick fix.
I love it. Thanks so much for sharing, by the way. That's pretty cool. I always to know the backstory, by the way. So how to talk and get what you want. If you had to kind of give us a bumper sticker version and say, here are 3 things you can do or 4 things you can do to really be more effective. I'm going to put it in Shea Brown's, I went to DC public schools, terms, how you can communicate more effectively with folks, by the way. What is step 1? What is step 2? What is step 3? What are 3 or 4 ideas you would share with the audience? And you at home, you might want to lean in. Oftentimes we have conversations, and then sometimes we have one like we have now where someone can actually share with you from their own experience and what they do every day. You might want to lean in now. Take it away.
For sure. For sure. So the first thing I would do is always go through that process of self-evaluation that I just shared with you. Ask those key questions. What's happening? What does it mean? Because when we fully understand and we take the time to process clearly what is going on in our life right now, why does this matter? And what do I need to see happen? We can communicate to people more clearly what the problem is, what our expectations are, and how we would like to solve it, our ideal solution for solving the problem. Then we can ask people to engage with us to solve that problem, right? And what that sounds like is just asking simply, what can we do differently so that we get a different outcome? Are you willing to work with me to make sure that this problem doesn't continue to happen? When we ask questions like that, we're drawing the other party in. And so now they are our partners in problem solving rather than our opponents on the other side of this issue, right? So that's one. I think that the other thing that's really important is that we've got to be careful of the language that we use. We can use I statements instead of you statements. So we've all heard, I'm sure all of us have heard someone say, "You're making me really mad right now." But is the other person making us mad, or are we just feeling that? Can we own it? Right? So I could say, instead of "you are doing this and it's creating this emotion," which, by the way, gives the other person power. Think about that for a second. If I say, "Che, you're making me real mad right now," all Che knows is he can push my buttons and he can make me feel some kind of way. But if I say instead, you know what, you just said this thing and I felt something inside and it sparked this emotion in me. And I want to talk about that a little bit. That's different. Now I'm taking responsibility, I'm taking ownership of how I feel, and I'm expressing that. And if I express that in a way that I say, this is how I feel, and this is why I feel that way, this is how I would like things to work out. And I wonder if you'd be willing to partner with me to solve this problem so that it works out in a really nice way for both of us. It's really hard for people to go, oh, I don't want nothing to do with that. Like I'm stepping away, like they're more likely to engage with you because of the way that you've approached it. So that's what I mean when I say how to talk to get what you want. There are ways to address problems with people that actually build loyalty, build connection, and help everyone to get what they actually want, which is a healthier, stronger, more cohesive relationship.
I love it, by the way. That's probably a great segue as you were sharing the steps that we need to do to a segment that we have here called Today is My January 1st. Now, folks might think your life is perfect. We'll find out in a moment if you ever had any setbacks. But for those folks who tune in every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, what we're about to do. We're about to say those magical words. You can say them if you want to as you're out there. Today is my January 1st. Doesn't that feel good? Happy New Year to you. And then for all the new folks who are joining for the very first time, today is my January 1st is our personal mantra here at the Happy Entrepreneur Show. It represents a fresh start. It represents a do-over. It means our past, no matter how dark and gloomy that past is or how bright and sunny that past has been, the past no longer equals our future. And so my question for Julie on the other side is, when you hear those words, today is my January 1st, what do you hear? What do you hear? And number two, was there ever a time in your life where there was a setback? And how were you able to bounce back from it? Maybe life's been perfect, but we'll find out in a moment.
Yeah, I wish I could say that life has been perfect. But what I hear when I hear that today is my January 1st, I hear this quote that says, day one or one day, you decide. And I love that we always have the choice to decide. Today is day one. I get that do over. The Bible says that God's mercies are new every morning. And so every morning when I wake up, it's day one. And so for me, what that means is when I have had setbacks, and I've had plenty. When I have setbacks, I do have those moments. I would be lying if I said I didn't have those moments where I did feel despair or I did feel hopelessness. But there's always this glimmer of hope, right? There's always this glimmer of hope that says, things can change, things will change if you stay the course. Someone said to me the other day, if God gives you something to do and you don't do it, bad things are going to happen. And so I'm like, all right, well, if I truly believe that these things that I have, my mission, my vision, these things that I'm so extremely passionate about, if this is my purpose in life, then even when the days are dark and even when things don't look promising, all I see is today, but I don't see tomorrow. The other thing is that because I don't see tomorrow, it gives me the opportunity to pursue possibility. Tomorrow could be worse, but it could also be better. And a lot of that has to do with the decisions that I make today in this moment. And so if I continue to make decisions that are geared towards creating the future that I am designing and the future that I believe is destined for me, then I should see light at the end of the tunnel. And I have always found light at the end of the tunnel in those dark times. It's always turned around. Nothing is permanent. Nothing is permanent. And that means that failure is not permanent. Dark times are not permanent. Sad times are not permanent. Hard times are not permanent. And so I always think of that when I wake up in the morning, it's a new day, it's a new start, and everything that I do today will determine what my future looks like tomorrow.
I love it, by the way. Uh, one of my favorite questions to ask when we have some time now, is what's one of the best pieces of advice you've ever been given. And I'll preface it for the audience so they understand that, you know, we'd ask you to bring down the 10 Commandments off the off the mountaintop, by the way. But she's read so many books. She probably can't remember all the books she's read. I don't know how many hours of videos you've watched these days. I've lost count, too many to remember. I'm sure you had mentors along your journey of life. But if you had to reach out and say, you know, Shay, here's one of the best pieces of advice I've ever been given, what would it be and why?
Oh my goodness. That is such a hard question to answer because I've been given so much good advice. I think one of the things that really stands out for me, it's almost it's almost goofy, you know, uh, and it comes from. I hope I can get it right. It comes from the show The Office, and it's one of those things when when I want to do a thing and I think that that thing might be a stupid thing to do, then I don't do that thing. It seems so goofy, but it's such valuable advice. One of the things I say in my seminars is that everything happens for a reason, but
Yeah.
sometimes that reason is that you're dumb and you make stupid decisions. Like sometimes that's what it is. And so, like, if you look at something and you go, oh, that's probably stupid to do, then maybe you shouldn't do that, you know? And just like common sense, like we say there's no such thing as common sense. People do what makes sense to them. But if you're looking at a thing and it really doesn't make sense, why would you pursue it and then do that thing? Right?
Mm.
So for me, that is one of those few little mantras that I really live by. And it hasn't set me wrong, really. It hasn't steered me wrong so far.
Yeah, I love it. What do you do for fun these days then? When you're not out saving the world, we're not out writing books like you have books over there, you're not out coaching and teaching. What do you do for fun these days?
My husband and I love the outdoors. We love to hike. We love to cycle. We love to get outside whenever we can. We go see our beautiful grandchildren. We've got two gorgeous grandchildren, aged 4 and 18 months. And so, whenever we can get some time with them, that is what we do. And of course, for me, writing is not work. Writing is my therapy. It is my joy. It is probably my very first love. Um, so yeah, I love to write, and whether that's poetry or fiction or writing the self help work that I'm known for, I don't stay away from my pen and paper for too long.
What do you enjoy about cycling so much? Sound like when you talk about cycling and hiking, you kind of lit up a little bit there. I mean, do you just enjoy getting on the bike and being on the road, or what do you enjoy most about that?
I love the freedom that comes with cycling. I don't love the pain.
Well, that's
you
only if you
know,
have to cycle
you're
for a
doing a lot of
while.
uphill. That's not so much fun. But it gives you, the same way that walking or hiking gives you a fresh perspective on the world. If you drive through a neighborhood, you're going to miss a lot of the details. But when you're walking, you see so much more. You notice the little things. And I find that with cycling as well, that we're moving our bodies, we're using our own power to move us. And I think there's something really cool about that. Because again, we rely so much on technology, whether it's public transit or our own cars or whatever, and they isolate us, they insulate us from the world. But cycling really makes you engage with the world around you, as does hiking. It brings you closer to nature, and it helps you to slow down. You'll find that when you're hiking, your entire nervous system just slows down. And it's a great way to sort of bring yourself back to balance, especially if you have a busy lifestyle like I do.
I love it. Well, I tell you what, I've enjoyed this conversation. As we come down the home stretch, a two-part question. Number one, what type of clients is your firm looking to work with these days, if any? And number two, how can folks best connect with you? How can they stay in this conversation over and beyond the time that you and I've had this evening?
For sure. If anyone's looking to work with me, my ideal client is someone who recognizes that they have a little difficulty regulating their emotions and communicating their wants, needs, hopes, outcomes, desired outcomes, their desires with the people in their lives. And they would like to rehab their relationships. So I offer an individual program called Revive and Thrive Transformation Coaching, and that really walks people through the principles that I teach in the Rise of Rage. and shows them how they can learn to master their emotions and then communicate their needs and their wants and their ideas and all the things to the people in their lives that really matter. So it helps them to improve their relationships, to build deeper connections, whether that's at work, at church, at home, or at play. The principles are easily transferable, and so that's what I do for my clients one-on-one. For my corporate clients, if they're looking for a public speaker for their next event, or they're looking for lunch and learns or training, they're looking for something specific around the areas of anger management, conflict resolution, stress management, emotional mastery, I'm your girl. And then to get in touch with me after today, they can find me at my website, angersolution.com. That is www.anger, solution, singular. There's only one solution. So angersolution.com, you can find me there, and you can find me on LinkedIn at Julie Christiansen, on Instagram at JULZ_Christiansen. And you can find me on Twitter at the Anger Lady. I am all over social media, and I have a couple of YouTube channels as well.
Well, let me say thank you so much for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. I certainly appreciate you. Can't wait to have you back.
It has been my absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you. Thank you to viewers. Thank you for tuning in, by the way, because without you, well, we don't have a show. So we appreciate when you show up. It's always cool, depending on what platform you're in. We hit the little like button and make the comments. But for this episode, I'm going to ask that you hit the share button. If you can do that, depending on what platform you're on, we are syndicated. But hit the share button and pay this message forward so someone else can be blessed because of this message. And I never get tired of reminding you, every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, no matter what's going on in your life. Some of you are doing very, very well, and some of you might be going through a storm right now. But you are special. Yes, you are unique. I know you hear that all the time, but it's true. You're awesome and you're amazing. But more importantly, today is your January 1st. And because of just that one reason, I still believe your best is yet to come. Your best is yet to come. Your best is yet to come. With that being said, my name is Shay Brown. It hasn't changed. The Happy Entrepreneur. Make it a great day, everyone. We'll make some good things how we connect again next time. Thank you so much, Julie. We out of here, everybody. Peace. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.